Da-da-da-da-da-do. Hello. Ooh. Sexy. Sexy. Oh. That kind of. Episode 73. Hello, this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 73 of the Show Free Art podcast, which is a little podcast that I do about the art and things. And this one is going to be about addiction. It's probably going to be a little one, a super little one, because there's only really one thing I want to say, and it's just about saying no. So I got my little paper towel here with my little notes on it, and the notes written on this one is, it says at the top, Battle Cat, which is the name I've given one of my lucid dreams. So I've just recorded About the Tings 3. So what I'm going to do, next week's episode is going to be about the Tings, and it's going to be about lucid dreams experience. And I've recorded over the last month 3 lucid dreams. So I think that's going to be quite a fun one, that. And one of the dreams was called Battle Cat, which is a really fun dream where I basically become a cat. It's super fun, but that'll be next week's. I've got some notes down here. I was going to talk about limiting beliefs, but I really want to talk about this addiction thing. So it's going to be about video games, really, but it's about every type of addiction. So you can find show notes for this podcast at sophielawson.com, and if you go on youtube.com/sophielawson, you can find a video. So this little podcast is on video, and you can see little Dennis. But that gong means it is time for the topic, which is addiction. Actually, I'm going to start by these limiting beliefs things. I might do a full episode in the future about limiting beliefs and stuff, because this past week especially, I've got a little bit frustrated, I suppose, because I've been trying to do stuff and it's so many things I feel like I can't do, even though I know I can. I feel like I can't because there's some beliefs which are limiting beliefs. But it's quite funny, I found myself at work, this is when I wrote this down, I found myself at work saying I've got too many limiting beliefs, and then I started laughing because I thought that in itself is a limiting belief. So it's almost like, I find it quite funny, it's like one of your limiting beliefs is that you've got too many limiting beliefs, because if you believe you've got too many limiting beliefs, that's going to limit you. Funny. So what you have to do is, I think, pull all the limiting beliefs apart and start squishing them one by one. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'm trying to work out. This is why in next week's episode I'm talking about lucid dreams, and I'll talk about how I'm starting to go after my inner child. It's something I feel like the dream's showing me that it's something I need to go after, and I feel like this inner child, if I can talk to this inner child in my lucid dreams, I feel like that's going to really help with these limiting beliefs. So maybe in the future I'll put the two together in a podcast, talk about it properly. I just thought that was quite funny how you can have a limiting belief about limiting beliefs. Super funny. But I got a little bit of text here, and it basically just says addiction, no. Saying no. So this podcast is going to be all about a little technique I've learned about addiction, and I'm still having to put it into place, because what I've noticed is, it's really weird. You can have an addiction to something, you can sort of overcome it, and then somehow that addiction will move to something else, and you'll have exactly the same addiction but to something else. So an example for me is, I had an addiction at the start of the year to buying video games. I was able to stop that, but then what I noticed is, and I only noticed this recently, I had turned that same addiction. So even though I'd stopped it, I had turned it, or it had evolved into an addiction to buying art books. So I noticed, okay, I haven't actually got over that addiction yet. So I've now got to try and work that one out. But I've got this really good technique which works. It's just super hard, especially it's super hard, especially at the start, to like put it into practice. But it's so simple. That's the thing that's funny. It's so simple. So what it is it's basically saying no. You don't say no to the addiction. You say no to, like, what you have to do is look at the addiction and sort of backtrack. And what you'll notice is that addiction is coming up after previous actions or addiction. So you don't say no to the addiction, you say no to something way before that. So like, well, it goes back to this thing about probability. I feel like if your addiction is buying, it could be anything, buying clothes, buying books. If you're addicted to buying something, what will happen is you'll try to stop yourself by stopping yourself when you're buying it. But that's, well, it might work, you might be able to do it, but the probability is really high that you're not going to be able to do that. Because if you're in the shop holding a video game, for me, if I'm in the shop holding a video game, it's like tempting me. I'm going to start reading the book, like the back of the video game. It's just going to make me want to buy it. So it's increasing the chance of me buying it. Whereas because what I did was I said, hang on, it was just really hard for me to stop buying them. So what I did was I said, how about if I stop myself, if I say no to going into the shop? So because you say, right, I'm going to not buy any video games, what will happen is you'll subconsciously, without even thinking about it, you'll end up inside of a shop that sells video games. And you'll move over to these video games. So it's almost like you have to reverse engineer what's happening here. It's a bit complicated, but it's so simple. You just need a little bit of time to work out what's going on. And it comes back to awareness again. So for me, it was like, at first I started trying to say no to buying a video game. Then I thought, I'll say no to walking down the aisle that's got video games. Then I said no, I'm going to say no to going into the shop that sells video games. And you just keep going back until you get to a point where you're not buying video games anymore. So for me, I reached a point where I said, I'm actually going to not go into town. So I stopped going into town. It's like removing the temptation. And what will happen is somehow, at some point, you will just know. You'll just get a feeling that you know you can start putting it back in. So it's a bit like, at the start of the year, I had an addiction to video games. I think this was about 6 months ago. I did a 50-hour fast, a 2-day fast of not eating any food. And for some reason, well, what happened was, during that 2 days, I distracted myself by playing video games. And I didn't like that, and I thought, I've still got an addiction to video games. So the fast basically showed me that I had to stop playing video games. I look back now and I realise it wasn't so much the video games that was the problem, it was me buying video games. And this is why, now that I'm buying these art books, and I can't stop buying art books, there's nothing wrong with buying art books. In fact, I'd rather be addicted to buying art books than video games, because at least with the art books, I'm getting inspired. But the thing is, if you know, and you do know, if you know that you're addicted to something, because I find myself, I've got enough art books now. I've got 6 art books up there to like flick through for these videos, and I'm really excited to do that. And I am sketching from these art books, so it is all good. It's just I find myself still wanting to buy more art books, and I can't keep doing that. So I've got to find a way to balance. And it's the same thing I was talking about with video games. I do need video games in my life, and they will come back one day in the future, but I'm not going to let them back in until I know deep inside that I will be able to handle it and not be distracted by them. And that hasn't happened yet. So I'm doing the same thing with these art books. I think 1 art book a month, that'll be a nice balance, because then it's something to look forward to. I can actually spend the whole month focus on that 1 art book. And yeah, I'm not going to be addicted to buying these art books, but it's really hard because I just find myself, without even thinking about it, I find myself on eBay looking at art books. And like I said, I'm trying to say no at that point. It's too hard because you're getting tempted by it. So again, with that, I have to say no to clicking eBay, like the app. So it's really weird. It's awareness again. What will happen is you'll have your phone in your hand and you will click eBay, and what will happen is, as it's loading, because if you've said to yourself, I've got to say no to buying these art books and like eBay and stuff, as the eBay app is loading, a thought will go into your head of, no, I shouldn't be doing this. And at that point you have like about 5 seconds to say yes or no. And this is what I'm saying, it's like probability. What is the probability that you're going to be able to say no? It's much easier to say no, but as soon as the app opens up and you start seeing books like on the eBay app, it just becomes much harder. But what really helps with this is these affirmations. So I've talked about affirmations before. Every morning you say like affirmations like, well, one of mine is, I am disciplined. So every morning I say, I am disciplined, I am disciplined. And every night I say, I am disciplined, I am disciplined. So this is why they work. If you click on that eBay app to go and buy an art book when you know you don't need an art book, what will happen is the thought will pop into your head of, I've got to say no to this, and then you will hear, in the back of your head, you will hear, I am disciplined. And it sounds weird, but it works. And the minute you hear that I am disciplined, because it's one of your affirmations which you know is a positive thing, you say, yes, I am disciplined, and you close the app down. And then it might be like an hour later, you find yourself doing it again, and it just keeps going. But at some point, you will find that you're not clicking the app anymore. And I haven't bought any art books now for probably about 3 weeks, because I've got enough up there. I've got enough. I have got enough. As soon as I've finished those 6 art books, I'll be able to get another one, and it'll be like a treat. So yeah, it will be a treat, and I think it'll come together in the end. But it is really hard. It's really hard sometimes to be able to say no, and it's weird because it's harder at the start. It's harder at the start because you're trying to say no to the addiction when it's pretty much, I would say, sometimes impossible. You've got to work backwards. So what that means is you have to be working on it when you're not in the middle of doing it. But this is crazy because I've noticed that this addiction, which I've still got, I'm working through, I have had it for years, so there must be an underlying reason for it. And I think unless I work out that underlying reason for it, what will happen is I'll sort out this addiction to buying art books, and it will just move to something else, and I'll end up being addicted to buying something else. So really, yes, this is a good thing to stop buying art books, but I think you got to go deeper and work out, why are you buying. That's a good thing. I've never asked, why am I buying these art books? There must be a reason, but it's been with me for years, because back before I transitioned, and it was like a secret of being Sophie, I would go through these periods of probably maybe twice a year. I would save up loads of money, and then for about a month I would just spend all of my money on dresses, shoes, wigs, loads of stuff like that. And then it would get to the end of the month and I would have maybe spent about £1,000 that I'd saved up. I would have spent it all on these clothes and I didn't even wear them. And then I would start feeling guilty, and so many negative things would come out of it. And it was just so weird because in the moment I couldn't stop it. It was only it's hell of a weird. It's like you sort of get possessed sometimes. Yeah, it's like you are not in control of this thing, but you can get in control, and I think affirmations will help, because like I said, it will intercept it will intercept the negative, like the addiction. Yeah, it's very complicated, but my mind, what do I think is the reason I'm buying all these things? I think it's some sort of distraction. Obviously, there's obviously something going on there. Need to think about that. But this is a really good technique. So if you're addicted to anything, it's not just buying stuff. Because it really worked with my video games. I just said no to the video games, and it was a lot easier than I thought. So I haven't played any video games for about 6 months. Do I miss them? Little bit, but I don't as well. What I do miss about them is the characters, because I love characters. And the only video games I play really are ones with really cool characters. So I miss the characters, but again, this is why art books is good, because I'm buying art books filled with characters. So it's good. It's good. I think there's a balance point for everything, and it's just a case of finding that. I've talked about it before. It's like swinging back and forth on these pendulums, like buying loads of stuff, then buying nothing. You can't do that, because I think in the middle you can have your cake and eat it. I think it's just you can't eat it all at once. A little slice now and again. That's what I think. Basically, that's it. This little podcast, I think that is quite cool, and it is something I'm still working through. Maybe that's why I haven't talked about it, because I've wanted to talk about this topic for ages, and sometimes you don't talk about something because deep inside you know when you start talking about it, it's going to bring to the surface something. So like now, I've got something to work on there, because I didn't really think about the fact that there's obviously an underlying reason for the addiction. So I'm probably going to write about this now in my automatic writing, because again, writing is amazing. When you start writing about things, you learn so much about yourself, and it's amazing. But I hope you enjoyed that little podcast. Ding! Little Dennis. I do like my little Dennis. This week's inspirational quote. Well, firstly, you can find show notes at sophielawson.com. What I've been doing is I'm currently working through all of my inspirational artwork. So on the website, there's over 60 of my favourite artworks. And what I'm doing is I'm working through them from the beginning, and I'm starting to look at each artist. I'm sort of studying them, and I'm doing little videos on YouTube, but I'm starting to put those videos into the website. So it's quite cool, and I've worked it out, it's probably going to take about a year, which is quite a long time, but in about a year's time, I should be up to date, and that's going to be really fun, because then, each month, I'll be looking at the artists that I've just put onto the website, whereas at the moment, I'm looking at artists from years ago, so there's quite a lot to do, but I'm really enjoying that, and I just love looking at other artists' work, so that's fun. I'm also doing my little flicking through the art books, which is fun, and what else is there? I think that's it. I did want to talk about something, maybe I'll talk about it next time, but I have started getting into board games. So, shall I go? No. Yes. I'm going to go and get it. Talking about this episode is quite funny, because I picked up a little board game here called Arkham Horror. I think board games might become my replacement to video games, because the thing with board games is, with a video game, this is one of the reasons why they are so addictive. You can play them for 5 seconds. No, you can't. You can play them for 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes will become 5 hours. Whereas with a board game, you can't play a board game for 5 minutes. It says here 2 to 3 hours. So to play this game is going to take about 3 hours. It's also going to take about half an hour to set it up. So this is going to be, hopefully, this is a little experiment. Hopefully, starting to play these board games is my way of playing, because I feel like what I've noticed this past few weeks really is I'm not playing enough. I've not got enough fun in my life. And I bumped into somebody in town, and we started talking, and he was talking about board games. And I thought, I've always wanted to play board games. So, like, the thing is with board games, because it takes so long to set up, and the game takes so long, you're not going to just play like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, which ends up being an hour every day. You're going to have to set time aside for it. So this is going to be like every Saturday night, 3 hours, play a little board game and see how it goes. But what's really amazing is I spoke to my sister and she said she would do it. So this is, hopefully, it will be a good way for me and my sister and like family and stuff to start playing games together. So I feel like it's a way to play games and also like work on my social skills and stuff as well. But what's really amazing is this person I bumped into in town, he invited me to a game night. So again, it might even turn into something where you can have friends and stuff like that. Because we all need friends, and I think friends will be, it's just going to be fun. It's just fun. I'm looking forward to it. So that's this weekend. This is a 1 to 6 player game. But there are some games out there, really funny ones, where you, like role-playing games, where you become the characters. So that's basically what I'm going to play with my sister. We're just going to play these, like, become the characters. I think it's going to be fun. A little bit scary, because you got to, like, become a character, so it is a little bit scary, but that's why I want to do it, because it's, if you can do it, I think you'll get confidence from it. So lots of little things like that, but I thought I'd talk about it. But I did, as I was recording this podcast, the thought did go through my head that I'll end up becoming addicted to buying board games. That would be funny. But again, I think if that does keep happening, to me, it's the universe saying, look, you've got a problem, and it's showing itself as buying things, and yeah, you're going to have to work out what it is. Basically, that's it though. This week's little inspirational quote goes to Benjamin Alia Sayetz. I don't know how to say his name. Benjamin Alia Sayetz. It's a little quote about addiction, and I do like this little quote. It is, if you can quit for a day, you can quit for a lifetime. Benjamin Alia Sayetz. Oh, that's nice.